I'd like to call to order the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education regular public meeting for August 30th, 2018. Mrs. Saradaki, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Boroff? Here. Mrs. Brody? Here. Dr. Clancy? Here. Mr. Murray?
Here.
Mrs. Winkler?
Here.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Here.
Mrs. Bauer?
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Please join us in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the board just met in executive session and discussed personnel and legal issues. We had notices sent to the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, and also to the Times. And I see we have one addition to the agenda, 20 BUS. Is that all?
Yes.
Okay. In accordance with Scotch Plains Fanwood Policies 0164 and 0165, we have an opportunity for anyone from the public to come to the microphone. Please give us your name, the town in which you reside, and you will have 2 minutes to share anything you'd like to share.
Hi. Edmund All, Scotch Plains. I want to discuss two things at length and one short item. I'll try to be as quick as possible. I'm sure you're all familiar with Janet's Law. It's having the presence of AEDs within the school system. My son was on a travel baseball team, so we went to some other townships, and I started taking note that they had AEDs at their ball fields. I walked around prior to this meeting, and there's no AEDs at the high school ball field. I can't speak for every school in the town, but we'll just use the high school for example. According to Janet's Law, you're supposed to have an AED accessible within a minute and a half walk from what they constitute an athletic event, which could be a recess, phys ed, practices, or games. So, unless anybody can prove me wrong, I haven't seen any AEDs that are fully accessible, any signage of AEDs at the high school level. Probably same with Evergreen too. I didn't see any there. So, just kind of letting you know, I was reading up on Janet's Law, and I noticed that, these requirements are there. I don't know if you're familiar, but there's the syndrome. When you get hit in the chest with a baseball or a lacrosse ball, you basically go into cardiac arrest, and really the only way to revive you is with an AED. And you basically have a 3-minute window, more or less, to bring somebody back to life. And once again, it seems like AEDs is the only thing that's going to do it. So I just appreciate if you can look into that. I'm a concerned citizen about that. So, second thing I'd like to talk about is school safety, in particular on Election Day. I talked to the town council. I talked to the town clerk. I called into a town council meeting one night and suggested that we either close the schools on Election Day or get the poll stations out of the school. Just come this past primary in June, it seemed like they were only successful in getting polling station out of Park Middle School. The other schools, I know Terrell, I think it was Coles, McGinn, they all still had the polling stations in the school. So moving forward, I think the last thing we all need is for our kids to have another day off from school, but according to the town, there's ADA issues, there's proximity issues of having a polling station within the district, and once again, fully accessible for all residents of the town, including ADA, which is important. So my recommendation would be to close school, because it seems like It's the only way we're going to alleviate the potential of a threat on Election Day. Because as we know with these violent acts at the schools, they're planned. They're planned well in advance. They're thought out, and on Election Day, our schools are wide open. So they're fully accessible. Anybody can walk in there, and God forbid something happen, as we've seen elsewhere throughout the country. And just the third thing, I guess, Mrs. Sarandaki, I just want to thank you for removing that large hazardous tree over by the baseball field, the high school baseball field. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Just so you know, we have been having a lot of discussions around, obviously, school security, and we have been discussing the issue of the elections and parameters around that and possibilities. So I don't know if Dr. Hayes wants to add anything, but just so you know, it is on our mind, and we're trying to.
Just, we have Election Day. I have the calendar for this year. and
Right, no, we
we have
know.
a single session on Election Day.
Right, so we had a choice to have a full session on Election Day or a single session. Several years ago, we began the practice when it's a presidential election or a gubernatorial election, we do generally close because of the walk-in traffic is extensive on those election days. When you have off-year elections, the walk-in traffic is really not as heavy, and all of the polling places are located in areas that can be isolated, and there is a barrier between where the polling station is and the rest of the building. We've also moved forward this year with the support of the Scotch Plains Police. Last spring, we added a school resource officer to the high school, and this year, starting in September, we're going to be introducing Class 3 officers in each of our elementary and middle schools. I'm sure on Election Day, they will be paying particular attention to the areas where there could be potential intersection with the public. If we simply chose to close on any election day completely, and I'm not saying that at some point we might not choose to do that, but if we did, parents need to be mindful of the fact that elections take place not only in November, but also in June. You can also have special elections, and if you have to close for all of them, we get no relief from the 180-day requirement. And so we would be extending the school year significantly into June, when parents feel it's too hot for the kids to come to school, and it begins to interfere with a lot of other activities that parents have planned for their students. So it's a work in progress. Debbie Saradaki gets great credit for helping us to move some of our schools that had polling places no longer have them. At this point, I think we're down to, out of our 8 schools, 4 have them. And we're working actively with the Board of Elections to see if there are alternative places to put them. They've been very cooperative in working with us. So we'll continue that effort because we do think, given the changing world we live in the best of all possible worlds, it would be best not to have polling places in our schools.
Anyone else? Okay, then that brings us to committee reports, and I know we had several committees who met. So who would like to?
I think policy now, right? We'll do it.
No,
Or in the policy part.
section.
So policy met, but they
Yes.
prefer to hold their report
Okay,
until
they
we
can
do
hold.
policy.
And curriculum met as well?
No, we did not.
You didn't meet?
It was canceled.
Oh, it was canceled.
However, we did share some documents that need to be
Right.
approved this evening.
I know
because-
that are to be approved. Okay. I didn't realize it was canceled. Okay. Letters to the board, we don't have any, so that brings us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Hayes.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. One, as tonight, I would ask that the board approve, first of all, the motion that allows us to approve the out-of-district placements for the extended school year. We had some additional placements that were necessary. So that is A under that motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And then B under the motion would be to approve the out-of-district placements, additional out-of-district placements for the 2018-19 school year.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, thank you. 2S are the curriculum approvals that Dr. Mass just made references to. There were some minor changes made to the world language curriculums in Italian 2, Mandarin 4, and Spanish 2. In the language arts, it involved the infusion of career readiness skills and technology connections, and the elementary, 5th grade, and middle school programs of studies did have some minor revisions. So we would ask that the board approve those documents this evening.
So moved. Second.
Okay, roll.
Seconded it.
Deb.
Thank you.
Roll call, Deb?
Yeah.
I mean, Mrs. Saradaki?
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
Thank you. And then on 3S, this is our annual approval of field trip. We approve a general list of field trip requests, and then we do add specific requests throughout the year as needed, particularly those that would be out of state or over 100 miles or involve an overnight trip. But these are the ones that are planned for this year. When you vote on the approval for this, I would amend the list for the preschool and Quest field trips to eliminate the Rutgers Dental Clinic from the list because we've been pointed out it no longer exists, and also on the district field trip list that we would remove the Rutgers Dental Clinic from that list moving forward.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And then under 4S, per policy 8505, which is our district's wellness policy, we do update the board annually on progress made on objectives related to wellness during the previous school year. This policy mandates that every school celebrates at least one wellness week. All of our schools did celebrate a wellness week during the 17-18 school year. They engaged in a variety of activities, and this year we were particularly impressed to see that there was a growing interest in mindfulness activities, which does go well with the strategic plan that we've had in place where we focus on students' health and wellness. In addition, we've seen an expansion of our students' gardens, and that's been a very welcome piece because kids learn about how fruits and vegetables, but particularly vegetables, are grown, and then they often get incorporated into their lunches in school. You'll recall that also out of last year, Mrs. Rabimbus did an excellent job of leading a committee that reviewed our district's health and wellness needs, and we'll be moving forward with some of those recommendations this year. So you have the report. The last part of the report requires us to review whether or not any changes are needed in the policy. And at this point, we are researching whether or not we're actually mandated to have the policy moving forward, because as a board, we agreed last year, right?
End of last year.
The end of last year, to come out of the National School Lunch Program, and part of the requirement to have this policy is related to the fact that the school district was a part of that. So if we indeed find that the policy is no longer required, that would be a change because we would then sunset the policy, or we could rewrite the policy if it were the board's pleasure to reflect the fact that we're not in the lunch program, but if we want to keep any aspects of it, we still could. So tonight, what I would ask you to do is...
Ask a question.
Sure.
I love everything that was in all the different activities. If it wasn't a mandated policy, we would still keep those
Yes.
things. They wouldn't go away.
No, they would not.
They're part of our schools now.
They would be a part of our schools. We've always done a wellness week in this manner for a long time now, and walk-to-school days have been part of our landscape at the elementary levels.
And the gardens.
The gardens are very... Yes. What?
Before the policy.
Before the policy, we had all of these things in place. And the other piece is because it does reflect our strategic planning goals.
Yeah.
So we would not sunset the activities.
It would just be less paperwork.
Yes.
Yes.
It would basically be an optional policy from a mandatory policy.
Yes. And so what I would ask tonight is that the board acknowledge receipt of the annual district summary progress report on wellness policy 8505.
So moved.
Second. I would say any comments or questions, but we already have those, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. 5S, we are required whenever we make changes in programming relative to special ed that the board acknowledge those changes, and so we have the following tonight. We would like you to approve the resolution that the board authorizes submission of the following requests to the Union County Office of Education. We are eliminating a multiple disability special ed class for grades 6 through 8 at Park Middle School, and a multiple disability special class program for grades 5 to 7 at Terrell Middle School, and a half-day preschool disability special class at Brunner. These are all related to enrollment. If we had students for the classes, we would keep them, but we don't have students to populate them. So we have to eliminate them and let the county know, the county office know that we're sunsetting them. Equally, there are some years where we're adding these classes based upon enrollment. This year happens to be one where the enrollment has declined and we don't need them for the 18-19 school year.
So moved.
So this is
Let's
specific to
just have a
this school
second.
year?
Second.
Second that.
Okay.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, because it's not clear through this, that it's specific to this school year. So I
Yes.
just want to make sure it's specific to this school year.
Yeah, because each year we have to come back to you and let you know if there are any programs we have to put in place, or if it's an annual.
Okay.
The kids are older.
And just for clarity, there's still special class programs
Yes.
at both middle schools. It's not eliminating the existing programs that are there.
Right.
We're not eliminating everything.
Correct.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So, thank you. And then 6S, I would ask that the Board of Ed affirm submission of the 2018-19 Annual Statement of Assurance for the Comprehensive Equity Plan. This goes to the Union County Office of Education that attests to the fact that the district has complied with the following, that we have met the goals that we set within our Comprehensive Equity Plan, and that we are continuing to implement the required policies and procedures relative to the equity plan, and that we have updated and are in compliance with all of the applicable laws that you see listed under item 3. Every 3 years, districts are required to complete a self-assessment relative to comprehensive equity issues. We did that in the 16-17 school year, and what's required in the off years is that we do a statement of assurance indicating that we are maintaining the plan and that we are updating it as needed. The primary areas that we focused on this year were we've continued to look at any disproportionality in terms of suspensions and detentions relative to particular groups, and we've also done a good analysis of our gifted and talented programs, and we're making recommendations moving forward about any programmatic changes that need to be made as a basis of that report.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And then tonight, I would ask that the board approve the personnel agenda as reviewed in exec this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Saradaki. Call the roll?
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to the portion in the agenda according to policy 0164 and 0165. If anyone in the public would like to come to the microphone, please state your name, town in which you reside, and you have 2 minutes. Okay, seeing no one, we're going to move on, Mrs. Saradaki, to the business functions.
Yes. Does anybody have an objection if I group these?
No.
1 BUS, I'm asking the board approve the superintendent's recommendations for staff training reimbursements on the report dated August 30th. 2 BUS, I'm asking that the board acknowledge receipt of the following disbursement listings, where we have several of our smaller bank accounts, and this is for the period June 30th and July 31st, 2018. 3 BUS, I'm asking the board acknowledge receipt of the summer fire and security drills. 4 BUS, I'm asking that the board approves several vendors and costs for additional related services for the 2018-2019 school year. 5 BUS, I'm asking that the board approve the following summer 2018 purchases. We had a refresh of our computers, and so you'll see a purchase from Apple in the amount of $367,230.50, and a purchase for Ocean Computer Group, which are Dell Chromebooks, in the amount of $183,747. 6 BUS, I'm asking the board to approve the following purchases with 2017-18 purchases made with 2016-17 excess extraordinary aid. You'll see all 5 elementary schools there listed for keyboard consultants, and that is for the speaker and video systems to be put in all the elementary schools. Last June, you had approved where we were still getting estimates for that, and these are the final prices. And then you'll also see DynTech in the amount of $105,588, and this is for network upgrades. Both of these purchases are on bids. The sound and projection systems are on the Educational Services Commission, New Jersey bid 17/18-48, and DynTech purchases are under New Jersey state contract. And from 2017-18 operating funds, I'm asking for the approval of the purchase of a replacement sign for the high school from Johnstone Communications Voice and Data. This would be the sign and the support. The brick underneath is crumbling, and so this would replace the entire sign, including the brick, under New Jersey state contract. We're right now putting in for a date for, to be heard before the Board of Adjustment, but the town may have an approval for LED signs before we get to that point. So I'm not sure which will come first, either our hearing before the Board of Adjustment or their decision to allow LED signs, and we'd be guided by their statute then. 7 BUS, I'm asking for the board to authorize an agreement with Flemington-Raritan Regional School District for reading recovery teacher training in the amount of $4,500. 8 BUS, I'm asking the Board of Education to authorize acceptance of the additional state aid that we received in the amount of $69,722 for the 2018-19 budget, and these funds will be used toward the hiring of 2 student assistant specialists who will support the district. 9 BUS, I'm asking for the board to approve acceptance of the IDEA grant funds for 2018-19. 10 BUS, I'm asking for the board to accept the ESEA grant funds for 2018-19. 11 BUS, I'm asking for approval by the board to, we have a student located at a youth consultation service school, and this allows them not to charge the student for lunch. 12 BUS, I'm asking for the board to renew the Honeywell service agreement. If you'll remember, last year, we renewed it for 6 months of our 12-month contract. And what they had done when we asked if we could just renew it for 6 months is they just took their normal rate and divided it in half. And so now we'd like to continue this through February. So it's in addition, the other half of the contract. 13 BUS, we have 3 special education legal settlements. I'd like the board to approve the settlements. One is for White Mountain School in New Hampshire. In the amount, the tuition amount is $43,730. The second one is for Somerset Hills Learning Institute, and that amount is the amount of the tuition. And the third one is for some district services and accommodations. 14 BUS, I'm asking for the board to approve disposable of the following office equipment. It's a 2005 duplicating machine that we can no longer obtain replacement parts for. And the purchase cost back in 2005 was $4,245. The machine will not be replaced at this point. It is a duplicating machine is a modified copy machine, and we do have enough copy machines in the district to support the staff without replacing this one piece. 15 BUS, we were able to sell the 3 older buses that we can no longer use, basically now according to the state. They were advertised on govdeals.com, and I'm asking for the board's approval for the sale. The bidding closed today, and you'll see that one bus was sold for $1,900, another bus for $2,065, and the bus that is not working was sold for $561, for a total of $4,526. 16 BUS, I'm asking the board to approve the I'm sorry. We bid these out for sale. So the wording on that is wrong. We're asking you to approve the sale dollars. You'll see that we had minimum bids for the MacBook Pros, iMacs, and Dell when we went out to bid, and we were able to obtain for the MacBook Pros $142,271.85, and the iMacs $9,591.75. The company is Sycamore International. The Dells, the only bid we received did not include a deposit, so it was disqualified, and so those will go up for sale with some additional tech equipment later in the fall. So you'll be asked to reapprove their sale. 17 BUS, asking for the board to authorize payment to the superintendent for completion of her merit goals for 2017-18. 18 BUS, I'm asking the board to acknowledge receipt of the board secretary reports, treasurer of school funds reports, and budget adjustments for the months ending June 30th, 2018, and the month of July 31st, 2018. 19 BUS, I'm asking for approval of the bill list for period June 23rd to June 30th in the amount of $911,793.70, and also for the period of July 1st, 2018 to August 28th, 2018 in the amount of $11,715,973.07.
Can we have a motion?
20.
I have 20. Copier replacement. I'm asking the board to approve a replacement of 19 copiers at 7 schools and the Board of Education office with a 60-month lease beginning August 30th, 2018 through August 29th, 2023 with Stewart Business Systems at a monthly cost of $8,605. The agreement also includes a per copy cost reduction from 0.42 cents to 0.375 cents per copy, which is actually considered our maintenance fee, and the addition of paper cut software for a total monthly increase of $71. That's it.
Okay, now, sorry. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, questions and comments for Mrs. Saradaki about any of these items?
I had questions, but you answered them, so thank you. More so on the keyboard consultant stuff, but I think I'm good.
Okay.
Mrs. Saradaki, while people are thinking, just to clarify, we do the computer replacements on a 5-year cycle, is that correct?
Dr. Mass, yes.
That's our general rule. You'll see that we use the desktops much longer than that. But we look to replace them on a 5-year cycle if that's appropriate.
Thank you for working to get part of what we spent on the new ones back, though. Thank you.
Yes, and you'll also notice how the Macs hold their value. And we're having
Longer
trouble
than the
selling the Dells.
Yes, we see that. Other comments or questions for Mrs. Saradaki? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So that brings us to board policies.
All right, get comfortable. This is a long one. We had a lot going on.
Just like the staff has been doing a lot of work, our policy committee did a lot of work at their meeting.
Thanks to the superintendent.
She's
Yes,
a lot of pre-work.
a lot of pre-work went into that. Thank you. So I'll do these as 2 separate items since they are listed as 2 separate items, and that'll break it up a little bit. We met on August 23rd to discuss changes to policies in our manual. Some needed to be added, some needed to be revised. We are abolishing certain things. I'll start, there are several that we would like to adopt tonight. We can, typically, we're supposed to have first reading and then second reading before we adopt policies, but these policies we need to get out to the, I'm not making a sentence out of this one. We need to get these policies out as soon as we can to be approved in order to be in compliance, and so with applicable laws. So I'd like to move several of them on after first reading tonight. So I'll start with those. What am I doing here?
First, you have to move to...
I can't talk about them first?
Well, you can.
Okay, so I'll start with the motion. Okay, I move that the board suspend the rules of bylaw 0131, requiring two board readings to adopt a policy and regulation, and adopt the following with 1 reading to have these policies effective for September 1st, 2018.
So we need to vote on that motion to suspend.
Suspend first,
bylaws
and then
first.
adopt second.
Okay.
But, so you're suspending bylaw 0131 so that you can adopt the 4 listed policies
So,
and regulations.
Is there a second to vote to
Second.
suspend? Okay.
Because that requires a...
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So now I'll talk about those policies a little bit. I'm going to move that we adopt the following policies to be effective on September 1st. And the policies are Policy 5512, harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and and that we would abolish the corresponding regulation. adopting policy and regulation 1510 on the Americans with Disabilities Act, and policy and regulation 5111, eligibility of resident/non-resident students. Little info on what's changed in those policies. For policy 5512, harassment, intimidation, and bullying, the New Jersey State Board of Education approved revisions to the HIB Administrative Code on November 1st. The code revisions appear minor, but some of the revisions are complicated. The existing Regulation 5512 would be abolished, as all of the legal requirements are included in the updated policy. The most significant code revisions are with the district investigating HIB for students attending an approved private school for students with disabilities. This provision allows, where am I here? This provision creates a procedure that includes a process by which the district board will investigate a complaint or report of HIB occurring on District Board of Ed school buses, at District Board of Ed school-sponsored functions, and off-school grounds involving a student who attends an approved private school for students with disabilities, as opposed to within the 8 schools of our district here. The investigation conducted by the Board of Ed's anti-bullying specialist would be in consultation with the approved private school for students with disabilities. Another change is notification to parents of students involved. This requires creating a procedure that allows for reporting of HIB and must also include a provision that permits a person to report anonymously. However, the district board shall not take any formal disciplinary action based solely on an anonymous report. School district officials shall take into account the circumstances of the incident when providing notification to parents and guardians in a reported HIB incident, and when conveying the nature of the incident, including the actual or perceived protected category motivating the alleged offense. The state does not provide any guidance on what to do in cases where a student may be LGBTQ, but not out to their parents, so we'll have to get some clarification from them on that one. Code revisions regarding the school district's anti-bullying specialist investigating a HIB complaint regarding a school district student attending a private school for students with disabilities, and the school district's official notification to the parents of all students involved in a HIB incident regarding actual or perceived protected category. Both of those will be difficult to implement without additional guidance. So the DOE has indicated that they will be providing updated guidance that will address implementation issues presented in these and other HIB code violations. However, school districts need to adopt the updated policy for September for school opening, and therefore we're adding this to that list now. I'm wondering what else is on this list that I need to do today. And abolishing the regulation that goes with that, because I think I said that at the beginning. I meant to, because it rules that in. Policy and Regulation 1510, Americans with Disabilities Act, related to the Comprehensive Equity Plan. Due to major changes enacted in the Americans with Disabilities Act Amendments Act of 2008, specifying how the definition of disability should be interpreted and applied, the policy has been revised, and the existing regulation would be completely replaced with the new regulation because the wording was extensive enough to require that. The intent of Congress in the amendment was to reassert a broad scope of protection under the ADA. Significant changes, as summarized in the ADA Amendments Act final rule, which became effective October 11, 2016, are included in the new regulation and include but are not limited to applying the definition of disability more generously without demanding extensive analysis. The new regulations restore the original intent of the ADA in making it easier for an individual to establish that he or she has a disability. clarifying that an impairment that substantially limits a major life activity need not also limit other major life activities to be considered a disability, noting that impairments that are episodic or in remission are considered disabilities if the impairment would substantially limit a major life activity when in the active state, expanding the definition of what may constitute a major life activity. Policy has removed reference to Section 504 as a new policy and regulation, as the new policy and regulations for 2418 added Section 504 and are included in this. Confusing myself as I'm saying it, but that's another one that we need to look at for finalizing tonight. Also, policy and regulation 5111, eligibility of resident/non-resident students, also is related to the comprehensive equity plan. A few revisions to the New Jersey statutes on persons who may attend schools and an update to the related administrative code on student residency requires several revisions to policy and regulation 5111. The two substantive changes resulting from new legislation include, one, a provision to permit a student to remain in school for the remainder of the school year if the move is a result of domestic violence, sexual abuse, or other family crisis, and two, a provision permitting the school district to request from the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission the parent's name and address for use in verifying a student's eligibility for enrollment in the district in the case of a dispute. The additional revisions provide clarification to existing language or are minor revisions. In addition, changes have been made to permit students to enroll pending a valid contract to purchase a home or pending a valid rental agreement for up to 8 weeks without tuition. We clarified language for students in grades pre-K through 11 that if a family moves out of district during the 4th marking period, we would permit the student to continue to attend school in our district for the remainder of the year without paying tuition. This does support the student getting adjusted to his or her new school if they should move before that, as the student will still have 1 or more years ahead of them in their new district. This does not apply to moves within our district. For a student in grade 12, if a family moves out of the district during the 3rd or 4th marking period, we would permit the student to continue to attend school in our district for the remainder of the year without paying tuition. Lastly, we're recommending the district not incorporate an option to accept F1 visa students into the district with a tuition contract to be signed before the district will provide the requested I-20 form. None of our schools are on the Department of Homeland Security approved student and exchange visitor program list, which is required for enrolling F1 visa students. Should we at some point in the future apply for that, then our policy can be updated to accept that. I believe that is the last of the
Very thorough
ones.
summary.
The good news is everybody has full copies of the policy.
Yes, we do.
Documents that we sent out last week after our meeting, so.
Yes, you can
Second.
see the work that was involved. Okay, so we had a motion. Did we have a second?
Second?
Okay. Comments or questions for the policy committee? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right,
Moving right along.
moving along to the next group.
I move that the board approve first reading on August 30th for the following board policies. Policy and Regulation 1613, disclosure and review of applicants' employment history. Policy and Regulation 2361, acceptable use of computer networks/computers and resources. Policy 5514, student use of vehicles on school grounds. Policy and Regulation 5561, use of physical restraint and seclusion techniques for students with disabilities. Policy and Regulation 7424, bed bugs. Policy and Regulation 7440, school district security. Policy 8550, unpaid meal charges/outstanding food service charges. Policy 8630, bus driver/bus aid responsibility. And Regulation 8630, emergency school bus procedures charges. And do we need a second before I I talk about them.
Okay, so go ahead, that's,
All right, so policy and regulation 1613, disclosure and review of applicants' employment history. This is a completely new policy and regulation. The policy was created because it's required for school districts in New Jersey in accordance with provisions of the state statutes effective June 1st, 2018. A school district, charter school, or non-public school shall not employ for pay or contract for the paid services of any person serving in a position which involves regular contact with students without a current and prior employment history review for past child abuse or sexual misconduct to be consented to by the applicant, disclosed by a former employer, and reviewed by the school district. The law has been referred to as pass the trash. For hiring, the basics would be all applicants to the district who seek employment will be required to provide information which includes their current employer and all former employers within the last 20 years for jobs involving direct contact with children, a written authorization that consents to current and former employers disclosing certain information, and a written statement as to whether the applicant has any employment history regarding child abuse and/or sexual misconduct. Each prospective employee must sign a sexual misconduct/child abuse disclosure release form. And we must complete this process for every person that we decide to hire. And we can require it for all applicants, but I think we're going to pretty much just require it, at least for now, of those who we intend to hire. Our district is required to contact the applicant's current and former employers requesting confirmation of the information provided to the hiring entity by the applicant. Each current or former employer will provide a New Jersey Department of Education sexual misconduct/child abuse disclosure release form or a district-developed form with similar content for review by the district. After review, we may choose to continue moving forward with the hiring process or not. In the event a current or former employer responds affirmatively to specific questions regarding child abuse and/or sexual misconduct in the applicant's past employment history, and if we choose to continue the applicant's job application process, then we need to make further inquiries for additional information or documentation from the applicant's current or former employers. Upon reviewing the additional information provided, we can then make a decision whether to continue with the job application process or not. This information is required for all applicants that are hired by the hiring entity, by us, by the school district, and may be, but is not required for all applicants. The law does not address where the information obtained by a hiring entity throughout this process shall be stored. And so that's something that we're going to have to look at as well. And it's possible that the state may come up with some guidance on what to do with that. For when we receive requests from another hiring entity regarding a current or former employee, all requests for information shall be directed to the superintendent or a person designated by the superintendent. The law doesn't actually designate who is to receive these requests. That's another one, but we'll, for now, we're going to say to the superintendent or someone the superintendent designates. Superintendent or designee will review the request for information, provided the request is in compliance with the statutes, and the applicant currently has or had an employment history with the district. The school district may receive an additional request for information from a hiring entity regarding a current or former employee, and the superintendent or designee will review the request and provide the information requested in accordance. Where else? School districts have 20 days to provide the information initially requested by a hiring entity, and an additional 20 days to provide any additional information that is requested. Other provisions in the law: a school district is not liable for not hiring an applicant when a current or former employer fails to provide the information requested. Current or former employer is protected when releasing employment history, providing the applicant has completed an appropriate release, which is included in the New Jersey Department of Education Sexual Misconduct/Child Abuse Disclosure Release Form, and must be included in any locally developed form. There is a provision for a hiring entity to employ or contract with an applicant on a provisional basis pending compliance with this new law. There are penalties for an applicant providing false information or for the willful failure to disclose accurate information. The new law has a provision for a hiring entity to terminate employment or rescind an offer of employment if information regarding the applicant's history of sexual misconduct or child abuse is subsequently discovered or obtained, and that the hiring entity determines, disqualifies the applicant from employment. The new law has a section concerning certain actions that are prohibited relative to employment agreements and contracts. So that's a long one, but it's a new one. We didn't have a policy that had quite this much detail in it before. Also, Policy and Regulation 2361, acceptable use of computer networks, computers, and resources. This policy and regulation was revised just after we did our policy manual overhaul in 2012, and as of the date of our policy work coincided with this revision. The revision did not make it into the manual, so we're updating it now. And these changes are mandated. Policy has minor changes, including the addition of a few items required by the Children's Internet Protection Act and Neighborhood Children's Internet Protection Act, such as providing education to the students regarding what is and is not appropriate online behavior. Changes to the regulation include specifically adding cyberbullying and other inappropriate behaviors on social networking sites and in chat rooms to the list of prohibited behaviors, and removing a section regarding staff allowing individuals who are not members to use their account and password to access our system. Policy and Regulation 7440, School District Security. Public Law 2017, Chapter 162 was approved and requires the superintendent to designate a school administrator as the school safety specialist for the school district, with supervision and oversight responsibilities for all school safety and security personnel and school safety policies and procedures in the district. Ms. Saradaki is going to be our school safety specialist. The school safety specialist shall also serve as the school district liaison with law enforcement. The new law requires the New Jersey Department of Education to establish a school safety academy with specific tasks, including the development and implementation of a school safety specialist certification program. The school safety specialist will be required to obtain this certification. School districts should wait for guidance from the Department of Education regarding the School Safety Academy's training and certification program. In addition, the regulation has been updated to incorporate the new school safety specialist requirements and the school district's use of key control systems for access to the buildings. The regulation has many revisions and should replace the existing regulation. The new requirements make the policy and regulations mandated. Policy and Regulation 8630, bus driver/bus aide responsibility and emergency school bus procedures. The New Jersey statute 18A 39 19.3 administration of training program requires the employer to provide training for school bus drivers and aides. It defines employer to mean Board of Education or a contractor that provides pupil transportation services under contract with the Board of Education. Therefore, the training requirements that are outlined in the statute for a district-employed school bus driver and bus aide and a contractor's school bus driver and bus aide are now the same. Excuse me. The policy's been revised to define employer. Staff training has been revised to have employer replace Board of Education, as both the board and a bus contractor have the same responsibilities now. Policy and Regulation 7424 regarding bed bugs is new. Some school districts have requested a policy for dealing with bed bugs, and so Strauss Esme had put together a policy, and we felt that why not? It's not something we've had an issue with before, but you never know. So we've done it. School district is not required to have it, but the policy was put together based on research, guidance published by federal and state agencies, and best practices implemented in schools throughout the country. The only statutory requirement in the policy and regulation is compliance with notification requirements and other requirements of the New Jersey Pest Management Act, the district's pest management plan, and any other applicable laws. Policy 8550, unpaid meal charges / outstanding food service charges. School districts participating in the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program have been informed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture that they must have an unpaid meal charge policy in place. Our district does not participate in the National School Lunch Program or the School Breakfast Program, but we do and should have a policy to address unpaid and outstanding meal charges. So we looked at the one that Strauss Esme prepared, and we are going to go forward with that. The policy explains how the food service program will handle situations where children eligible for reduced price or paid meals do not have money to cover the cost of their meal at the time of service. The USDA published the most recent unpaid meal charges guidance and Q&A dated March 23, 2017, and has indicated a school district's policy should allow children to receive the nutrition they need to stay focused during the school day, minimize identification of children with insufficient funds to pay for school meals, and maintain the financial integrity of the nonprofit school food service account. The revised policy includes a variety of options. Debbie worked with, I'm sorry, I keep calling you that. Mrs. Saradaki worked with our principals to develop the options that we believe will work best in our district. The high school is using one option, elementary and middle schools are using a different option that's more age appropriate. What else can I say? As we don't have breakfast in our schools, obviously we didn't include that in it, and we're not part of the school lunch program, but the policy committee did see that it was fit to have this policy in place, and so we are going forward with it. Policy 5514, student use of vehicles on school grounds. The policy's been significantly revised to a simpler format to accommodate the uniqueness on how we deal with all these things. This policy has a section regarding high school students driving an automobile and parking on school grounds. It has another section regarding students riding bicycles to school, and a third section to address students using other non-motorized items like skateboards and scooters. The policy prohibits other motorized items like hoverboards, motorized bicycles, etc., being brought on school grounds during the school day. And the regulation 5514 was pretty much rolled into the policy itself, so we are abolishing the regulation. Policy 5561, use of physical restraint and seclusion techniques for students with disabilities, and the corresponding regulation. Public Law 2017, Chapter 291, Statute 18A 46 through 13.4 through 13.7 concerning the use of restraint and seclusion techniques on students with disabilities was approved in January 2018. The New Jersey Department of Education published guidelines on July 10th, 2018. Therefore, the policy and regulation have been revised to incorporate provisions in the guidance. The Department of Education guidance includes a definition of mechanical restraint, detailed information regarding post-incident notification to parents, documentation to be collected from each incident, and details regarding training for school personnel. The provisions have been incorporated into the updated policy and regulation. Guidance indicates a Board of Education may choose to not allow the use of restraint and seclusion techniques for students with disabilities. However, if the board does allow it, then these changes are mandated. These restraint and seclusion techniques are used rarely in our district, only for students with special needs that sometimes require these techniques, and only when these techniques are part of a student's IEP. The one point on which we still need some clarification from the state is for the training requirements. The cost of training a staff member on these techniques is roughly $3,000. We do have a staff member who is trained. The regulation stipulates that all staff members working directly with students with disabilities shall receive training, and it's required annually. So we're going to need clarification on the all staff members who work directly with these students, because that would include PE teachers, art teachers, and quite a few others, not just the special ed teachers. And it says all staff working directly with students with disabilities, which would be all of our students with disabilities and not just those who include this in their IEPs. So stay tuned. But for now, our policy is what it is with those changes in them as required.
Comments or questions for the policy committee?
No, thank you, Amy.
Dr.
That was,
Hayes,
and
That was very comprehensive.
also Dr. Hayes for spending so much of her summer, spending time over the summer organizing this so we could look at these issues thoroughly.
There's a lot of tracking, and even though we have Strauss Esme, they don't just deliver what we need for our district, and so it takes a lot of work. So thank you, everyone. All those in favor of the first reading? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is that- I think I heard aye from everybody. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. That was like a scatter shot. All right, that brings us to other board business, requests to attend workshops. Workshop reports. No time yet. Okay, would somebody like to read our arts and education? Okay, Mrs. Brody.
I move that the Board of Education adopts the following resolution. Whereas arts education comprising a rich array of disciplines including dance, music, theater, media arts, literature, design, and visual arts is a core academic subject and an essential element of a complete and balanced education for all students. And whereas arts education enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, imagination, and creativity, discipline, alternative ways to communicate and express feelings and ideas, and cross-cultural understanding which supports academic success across the curriculum, as well as personal growth outside the classroom. And whereas to succeed in today's economy, students must masterfully use words, images, sounds, and movement to communicate. And whereas the arts provide the skills and knowledge students need to develop the creativity and determination necessary for success in the global information age. And whereas arts education has the power to make students want to learn not just within the arts, but other areas of study. Now therefore be it resolved that the week of September 9 through 15, 2018 is designated as National Arts and Education Week.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and we have a change in our school physicians. Somebody want to make a motion about the school physician?
So moved. I move that the board approve the agreement with Dr. Kevin Lukenda to serve as school physician, rates of retainer $500 per month for consultation services from July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019 at an estimated annual cost of $6,000. This contract is awarded without competitive bidding as a professional service under the provisions of the Public School Contracts Law.
Second. Comments or questions?
I have a question. Why are we changing?
Our doctor that we have used for many years, Dr. Schaller, has decided to return to the emergency room work. And so he did recommend some physicians to us, and we interviewed a couple of physicians, and this is the one that the committee decided that they thought they'd really like to work with. You'll see details in the contract that was sent out to everyone, but the 500-month consultation services, that's for, Mrs. Rubimbus, maybe you can help me. That was...
Sure, for football games?
Yeah, football, well, no, that doesn't include football, physicals.
Physicals, to review all the physicals
Reviewing
for
all
all
the
of
physicals, it's for standing orders.
standing orders for the district, for medical, for prescriptions.
And the home instruction
Yes, and reviewing our home instruction and approving our home instruction due to medical needs.
for new employee physicals and other things like that. There is a list in the contract that identifies the cost that will be associated with that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that brings us to the approval for the minutes for June.
I have to abstain from 1, 4, 5, 6. Just using the numbers.
I have to abstain from both on the 14th.
I need to abstain from June 18th.
You're abstaining from the 2 and 3?
2 and 3 for Nancy.
4 for me.
4 for
I
Deb.
need to abstain from 5 and 6.
Is there a motion?
Okay, we have enough people still.
Is there a motion?
So move. Second.
Okay, with all the abstentions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, in accordance with Scotch Plains Fanwood's policy 0164 and 0165, we have a final opportunity for anyone from the public, at least in this meeting, to come to the microphone. If you have something to say, please tell us your name, the town in which you reside, and you have 2 minutes. Okay, seeing no one, for the good of the order. Welcome back, everyone. Yes. So I had a couple of things I wanted to say. One, I wanted to say, because we are so timely with the art, and we're reminded about the art because we have none here, and we're usually surrounded by art, so we're looking forward to the new art. But I wanted to also highlight that our team that was at the Arts Integration Workshop was invited back this summer to the workshop sponsored by NJPSA and so forth at Princeton, and Scotch Plains Fanwood did a workshop related to the puppets, which we saw at the end of last year, and were part of a gallery walk, but also did a I think it was a 3-hour workshop, and it was a huge hit. It was a really big hit, so my hat's off to our team. There was just a lot of conversation about that, so that was really great. And I also just wanted to say, on behalf of all of us, for Dr. Hayes, to thank the staff for the work over the summer and welcome them back and wish them a good year from the Board of Ed when you begin next week. So, anyone else?
Just on a sad note, I think we should have a moment of silence in honor of Michelle Crisafulli. Unfortunately, we lost a first grade teacher over the summer who was a dear colleague and a highly respected teacher in our district. So if we could have a moment in Michelle's honor. Thank you. Michelle really has been an outstanding contributor to our school district, and our best wishes and condolences go out to her family, her children, and just know that we're doing everything we can to support them at this time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So we're going to welcome back over 5,500 kids into our district on September the 5th.
And we'll look forward to that report
Yes, the opening of
on
school.
opening day.
And we welcomed over 30 new teachers during this week's new teacher orientation, which was masterfully led by our supervisors, Dr. Mast, and many of our teachers who came in to do workshops for their new colleagues. It was quite an exciting 3 days, and we had 3 exceptional days of administrative workshops this year that were organized by Dr. Mast and several of our colleagues, but also where we had the benefit to have our teachers come in and teach us, which was a great experience, including we made the puppets. So that was part of our arts integration.
Takes a lot of team effort to do those puppets.
We know. And many of us in our public got to see a workshop, a mini version of it at a board meeting late in the spring. But all of our administrators had the opportunity to learn through the arts as well. So we've had a lot of enriching experiences this summer upon which to build our new school year.
Well, on that note, everyone have a safe last end of summer over Labor Day weekend, and we'll be back here before you know it in September. Thank you, everyone.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah, okay. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.